It's that time once again where we look at the most ridiculous reviews on the garbage tier site that is Rotten Tomatoes. I know a lot of people say that Rotten Tomatoes doesn't really matter anymore, and I happen to agree with that. But I still see some people using Rotten Tomatoes scores as a way to prove whether a movie is good or not. As if they use a Rotten Tomatoes score to validate their own opinion. So these types of videos go out to those people. Learn to think for yourself and not use the opinions of shills to back up your argument. Let's discuss.
I watch so you don't have to.
Where are they? They're dead. Alright, can I go now?
This is going to be one of the more unique film criticism is dead videos that I've ever done. Because today I'm going to be defending a movie that I myself do consider to be flawed. Today I'm going to defend an MCU movie, a James Gunn movie, against professional critics. And yes, I believe that hell has officially frozen over.
I don't believe it!
The truth is that it's easy to call someone like me a grifter or a hater, because that's the only way some people know how to respond to valid criticism. But when Marvel does something right, I give them props. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it should mean so much more coming from someone like me, who does have higher standards for these movies than your average fanboy.
Ultimately, if you're going to have lasting change in anything, you're really talking about just raising your standards.
Guardians Volume 3 currently sits at an 81% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is good by their standards. But it's also kind of low compared to other MCU movies. Which is interesting because there was a lot of things that I enjoyed about Guardians 3. The same things that a lot of these critics seem to hate.
Oh, there's a big surprise!
First, we'll look at Joey Morona from the Cleveland Plain Dealer, who says, quote, Volume 3 is mostly dark and dour, which only makes the series' signature elements of goofy humor, ridiculous scenarios, and too cool for school soundtrack stick out like a sore thumb. Translation, why didn't you just do the same thing you did in all the other Guardians movies? Further proof that people love the MCU because it typically plays things safe and feels familiar to them. They don't want chances to be taken with these movies.
Do the same thing as last time.
Now, I admitted in my own review that there is a serious clash of tones going on in this movie. The difference is, where this guy wants everything to be goofy, I actually liked it more because a lot of that goofiness has been removed. I don't know why critics and a lot of audience members seem to be allergic to the idea of taking anything seriously in a movie. It's like if things aren't constantly lighthearted, they can't enjoy themselves. For me, I don't need a movie to be fun in order for me to have a good time with it. I enjoyed Volume 3 more than the other Guardians movies because this movie actually made me care about what was going on.
That makes sense.
You do that by creating conflict and not undermining that conflict with juvenile tactics. I understand that Guardians is known for its lighthearted nature, but sometimes trying things a little bit different gives your franchise the shot of inspiration that it desperately needs.
Put some effort into it!
Then we have Linda and Al Lerner of Movies and Shakers, who said, quote, come for the music and the visual effects, not so much for the disjointed, depressing story. While the Guardians work to save the world, it's too bad James Gunn and the crew couldn't save this movie. I just want to point out that because this movie isn't your typical save the world scenario, at least not through most of it, is precisely why I enjoyed it more. To me, the conflict felt more personal with the rocket situation. And when the movie reverts back to saving the world or saving the alternate world at the end of this film, that's where I started to lose a little bit of interest.
How can you not care?
Like this.
So right off the bat, it feels like this guy and this girl apparently missed the mark on this one. And again, just because a story is depressing shouldn't take away from the fact that it is told well. With you starting your review and telling people to go for the special effects and the music tells me that you went into this not really interested in the story to begin with. You wanted the typical MCU bullshit, all spectacle and no substance. And this is the type of thing that makes me believe that true film criticism is in fact dead.
Man, I'm tired of being right.
And then we have Maya Phillips of the New York Times, who says, quote, animal lovers, comic book fans, and unofficial advocators of narrative continuity, action, and style of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, lend me your ears. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is not the movie for you. Weird, because I said me being an animal lover is part of the reason why I enjoyed this film. Because it is quite literally advocating against animal cruelty. Now, is a Guardians movie the place for this message? Maybe not. But exploring Rocket's origin made its inclusion feel that much more organic.
Because it's all part of the plan.
Oh, and by the way, this is a movie, it's not real. So if it affects your mental health that much that you can't function after watching it, then maybe you shouldn't be watching movies.
Stop it!
Interestingly enough, I'll admit that me not being a fan of the modern MCU, I think helped me to enjoy this film more. I like that it's a departure from what they normally do. So maybe it's not a movie for your typical Marvel fan, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe the best way to combat superhero fatigue and fatigue in your brand is to try new things so your product doesn't get stale. Instead of trying to fit into the conversation, why not try to change the conversation? It's not surprising to me that some critics didn't enjoy this movie. To me, they just didn't enjoy it for all the wrong reasons. Par for the course when it comes to Rotten Tomatoes certified critics.
Y'all be cool. Right on.